Hey everyone, this is MNL2, and today in this video, I want to hopefully assist any of you who plan on visiting Six Flags Magic Mountain anytime in the next month or so. I have already made a similar video explaining what you can expect to see while at the park, but I also wanted to make a video that explains some tips and tricks that will hopefully help you get the most out of your day and have the best possible experience while at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Also, real quick, if you find yourself enjoying any of my videos or find them interesting, informative, or entertaining in any way, then please feel free to like the video below to help out the channel and help me keep providing good content for your enjoyment. Thank you. Tip number 1. Arrive as early as possible. So if you're planning on visiting Six Flags Magic Mountain anytime soon, my first and best piece of advice right now is to arrive as early as you possibly can. As I have explained in the previous video, the park is very empty for the first few hours of the park's day, allowing you to basically get a walk-on in the first few attractions. I strongly suggest only making a reservation if you can get into the park no later than like 11:30. Trying to show up at any time after noon will make it nearly impossible to ride anything without waiting in line. Take advantage of the light crowds at the beginning of the day, because showing up halfway through the day is honestly a very bad idea. If you have a reservation for like 2 p.m., I would highly advise to reschedule and pick a day that still has time slots as close to 10:30 as possible. This also means arriving at the park in your car early as well, as parking will fill up and can become extremely congested. Given that a significant amount of the parking lot is occupied by the vaccination site, it is very important to come early so that you can park very close to the park, and not in the overflow lot, which is pretty much a half-hour walk to the front of the park from there. Tip number 2. Bring only what you actually need inside the park. As I mentioned in the previous tip, parking can become a bit of a hassle if you aren't one of the first people to show up to the park. Also, lockers everywhere in the park, including the main ones at the front, at least at the time of recording this, are not available for usage, likely to reduce the spread of germs. That being said, make sure you have everything you need for a full day at the park with you once you leave your car, because exiting to go get something from your car and then re-entering can become a huge hassle with the constant flow of people always showing up due to the staggered reservation arrivals. This also means don't bring too much stuff inside the park, because if you bring like your entire bedroom with you, then you are kind of stuck carrying it around all day. So really make sure that you only have what you really need, like your pass, phone, wallet, water, your souvenir bottle, and maybe a phone charger too. Tip number 3. Pick up your Flash Pass ASAP. Once you've actually gotten inside the park past the turnstiles, I would highly advise going straight to the Flash Pass headquarters if you are a member, or if you plan on buying Flash Pass. If you are not a member, nor do you plan on purchasing a Flash Pass, then this won't apply to you. Flash Pass skip the lines for popular rides will run out after a few hours of the park's operation, and plus, the line for Flash Passes themselves will become even longer than some of the actual rides in the park later in the day. If you come straight here right at the beginning of the day, then the process of picking up your Flash Pass will take no more than like 5 to 10 minutes. Also, if you need anything situated with member services, then I would recommend doing this around this time as well. Tip number 4. Head to the back of the park and ride some of the more popular rides first. This one is a bit self-explanatory, but often, when people enter the park, people will head straight to full throttle because it is really close to the entrance of the park. If you're the absolute first person in the park and you run there, then sure, maybe you can get there first. But assuming you aren't the very first person to get inside the park, I would actually recommend taking the shortcut through Revolution's exit, or the ramp up to X2 if you want to ride that first, and then head to the center and back of the park to ride Tatsu, Sunday the Ride, West Coast Racers, Apocalypse, Riddlers, and Crazanity. If you enter the park between 10:30 and 11:30, chances are you should be able to get on all of those rides without waiting in a line longer than like 20 minutes, with the first few coasters being complete walk-ons. Tip number 5. Try to ride all the major coasters before getting lunch. Unless you are a speed eater and speed digester, I would recommend trying to ride every major coaster before about 12:30, which is around when the park will start getting some crowds. The food lines won't be horrible at around 12:30, so it shouldn't be that difficult to get food around that time. If you manage to ride X2, Tatsu, Sunday the Ride, West Coast Racers, Goliath, and Twisted Colossus all before 12:30 to 1 p.m., then you've pretty much successfully beat out the crowds. It isn't the easiest thing in the world to get rides on all of these in only 2 hours, but it is possible, as I have done so many times over the years. Tip number 6. Bring multiple water bottles. As Magic Mountain slowly starts getting back into the swing of things, I feel like the hydration situation will gradually improve over the next few weeks. But nonetheless, even with every refill station in the park open and water fountains turned on, I would still recommend that you bring at least 2 or 3 sealed water bottles with you. Sealed water bottles are the only drinks allowed to be brought inside the park, so take advantage of that. I know a lot of you who have season cups or member cups will only rely on getting drinks from the refill stations or food locations, but let's be real here. You're gonna fill it with soda, iced tea, lemonade, or some other drink that isn't water. Just a friendly reminder that you are most likely a human being, and human beings do actually require water to live. That being said, I have found it easy to become distracted by riding roller coasters to forget to drink water. On top of that, we are approaching summertime and the weather is only just going to get hotter from here. Trust me, riding roller coasters while being dehydrated just leads to the worst possible headaches, so please do yourself a big favor and just bring water with you. Tip number 7. Download and use the Six Flags mobile app. If you are currently a member or pass holder, then chances are you probably already have this app installed on your phone. Even if you aren't a member or pass holder, I would still recommend installing the Six Flags app and using it periodically throughout the day. While inside the park, I find 3 main and helpful uses for this app. First of all, the app will show the wait times for every ride in the park as long as you are inside the park. It will also show you which rides are currently closed, whether it be temporarily, closed for the season, or for an extended period of time. Also, the Six Flags mobile app can be used to mobile order food at a few different food locations throughout the park. Mobile ordering food eliminates the need to stand in a long food line, because after your mobile order is ready, you can just walk up to the location and pick up your food. Lastly, if you are unfamiliar with the park and you don't know how to navigate or where certain rides are, food locations, or shops are located, the app has an interactive map that can allow you to zoom in and move around on the map. You can tap on certain locations, whether it be a ride, food location, or shop, and it will give you a description of each location to help you out if you are a first-time visitor to Six Flags Magic Mountain. Tip number 8. Stick it out during the later parts of the day. As I mentioned in the first tip, the park is going to be relatively empty for the first few hours of the day, with no lines for any rides. As with all amusement parks, however, crowds are going to pick up as time goes on. If you're determined to stay in the park until closing, which for the next month or two is only like 6 p.m., and you are determined to ride as many coasters as possible, then just remember, patience is key. Waiting in line is simply just part of going to theme parks. It's something we try our best to avoid, but unless you're willing to pay large amounts of money on top of the expenses to get into the park, then I advise to just stick it out for a few rides. I often find that people will arrive at a ride that they really want to go on, but then they'll change their minds upon seeing the line. Now, if this was the only ride in the park that had a long line, then this is understandable. However, sometimes you just need to realize that the park is going to become so busy that basically every ride in the park has a long line. This is also why the Six Flags app can come in handy, to monitor all the rides' wait times. If you are aware that all the rides in the park have a long line, then there is no point in wasting time going from ride to ride in the hopes that you'll find one that is a walk-on. Let's say that Twisted Colossus has an hour line when you make your way over there. Now, let's say that instead of getting in line, you walk to the complete opposite side of the park, checking the length of each line as you go, only to realize that everything has a line. If you had initially just gotten in line for Twisted Colossus, then you would probably already be halfway through the line in the same amount of time it took you to walk all around the park to every ride. So I know, it's not ideal, but you'll actually save more time by just sticking out some of the longer lines on busy days if you don't have a flash pass, than just wasting time by walking from ride to ride. But then again, this is why I highly advise riding the most popular rides early in the day before the crowds are there to begin with. Tip number 9. If you do choose to stick it out, then try to avoid waiting in long lines for unreliable rides. Okay, so this might sound like it contradicts the last tip, but allow me to explain. Certain rides in the park are known to be more unreliable than others and will break down more often than other rides. For example, if you are waiting in a line that is estimated to take an hour for Full Throttle, it might end up taking an hour and a half if the ride breaks down at any point that you are in line. Like I said in the last tip, it's best to just pick a ride and stick it out rather than walking around the park and wasting time. Fortunately, Magic Mountain has a lot of rides to choose from when it comes to picking a ride. I would personally try to avoid waiting in extremely long lines for Full Throttle, West Coast Racers, Sunday the Ride, or Lex Luthor Drop of Doom. Rides like Tatsu, X2, or Twisted Colossus can sometimes be hit or miss. By that I mean they can be consistently operating reliably all day, or they could be constantly going down. This is why it is important to be observant by checking the app to see which rides are going down. For example, if Tatsu has been closed the majority of the day and kept breaking down, it might not be a good idea to get in a really long line for it after it reopens, but rather a different ride instead. On the flip side, if Tatsu has been running constantly all day, then there is a higher chance that it isn't going to suddenly start experiencing plenty of issues. Now, don't take that to heart, because even if a ride is running flawlessly all day, it can still break down at any point, and for that reason, there is a little bit of risk by choosing to wait in a long line, but that is why I suggest waiting in a long line for something less likely to break down. Goliath has actually been one of the most reliable rides in the park ever since its lift-till motor was fixed, and even though I don't find the ride to be very interesting, Goliath most likely won't go down when you are in line. Neither will rides like Apocalypse, Viper, Gold Rusher, Riddlers, or Batman. Sure, they can break down, but it is less likely than on rides like Full Throttle, X2, Sunday the Ride, Lex Luthor, West Coast Racers, etc. Tip number 10. Remember to time manage towards park closing. So at this point, you are probably towards the very end of the day, and there's probably less than an hour before the park closes. A common thing for people to do at the end of the day at Magic Mountain is to go pick up a funnel cake or ice cream in the entrance plaza, or go shopping at the Emporium. Within the last hour of the park's operating day, the lines for the ice cream and funnel cake are going to be very long. So if you plan on getting something to eat over there, then I would say to get over there at around 5:15 to 5:30 to give you enough time to get your dessert, be able to eat it and enjoy it, and then leave the park at around closing time. If you plan on getting desserts, then I would not advise trying to squeeze one last ride in on something that has a line any longer than a walk-on. Otherwise, you might not even have time to get your food at the end of the day. They will close off lines for both food and rides at a certain time. Sure, if you are in line for anything, even after the park closes before they close the lines, then they will serve everyone who is in line or let them ride if it is a coaster, as long as it doesn't break down. The only problem with this is, if you are in line for something that has like an hour to 2 hour wait right before the park closes, then keep in mind that all of the ride ops working that ride and the security and other various employees are all going to have to stay there for those extra hours. The employees have lives too, and I'm sure they don't want to stay and work an extra 2 hours after every shift. They want to go home too. It's fine if the ride is a walk-on and you want to squeeze one ride in like 10 minutes before the park closes, but please be courteous and make good use of your time. If there's 10 minutes left before the park closes and you still want to do something, I would suggest just going to the Emporium or the Superstore, because at that point, getting food or riding a coaster with a really long wait time is just not reasonable. So those were the 10 tips that I have for you if you plan on visiting Six Flags Magic Mountain at any time during the next month or so. I hope this video has helped in any way, as I really want you to have the best possible day you can have as Six Flags slowly starts to return back to normal. If you found this video to be helpful, then please feel free to like the video, as it will help me out a ton. And if you want to see more, then be sure to subscribe with notifications turned on so you can be alerted every time I upload a video. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.